He was used to skipping meals. It had become a quiet routine, one he never mentioned to anyone, not even to his son, Toby. Danny Walker was a single dad who'd been fighting life with bare hands ever since his wife passed away 3 years ago. Between juggling night shifts at a loading dock and trying to help Toby with third-grade homework, he barely had time to breathe, let alone think about himself. But hunger had a way of creeping in, settling in your bones when the world felt cold and unfair. Still, Danny kept going, always telling himself, as long as Toby's okay, I'm okay. It was a gray Thursday afternoon, the kind where the clouds just hung in the sky like they were waiting to fall. Danny had just picked up Toby from school. They were walking home, hand in hand, passing by the grocery store they couldn't afford to enter that day. He avoided looking at the display of fresh apples Toby had stared at a little too long. Danny smiled tightly and tugged his son's hand. Let's get home, champ. Got that chili from last night waiting for us. Except there wasn't much left of it. As they turned the corner, something caught Danny's eye. A woman sitting on the curb near the old bus stop, cradling a toddler in one arm and holding the hands of 2 more children who looked no older than 5 or 6. Her clothes were worn thin, her shoes cracked at the toes. Her kids' eyes darted between strangers, but it was the sign in her lap that stopped Danny cold. Please help. Just need food for my kids. Danny froze mid-step. He wasn't the kind of man who judged. Life had already taught him better than that. But something about the woman, the way she tried to keep smiling for her kids even as her eyes flicked around nervously, hit something deep inside him. Maybe it was because he'd been there, or maybe it was because her kids looked so much like Toby had after Lisa's funeral. Confused, tired, and way too young to understand why the world was suddenly so cruel. Toby tugged on Danny's sleeve. Dad, is that lady okay? Danny didn't answer right away. He watched as a few people walked past her without a glance. One man even rolled his eyes. The woman quickly looked away, clearly embarrassed. She reached into her bag, pulling out what looked like a crushed granola bar, and split it 3 ways for her kids. Her own hands were trembling. He knew that feeling, that desperate, hollow kind of fear. Danny looked down at his son. Stay here, okay? I'll be right back. He walked over slowly, not wanting to startle her. Hey, he said gently. You all right? She looked up, startled, as if kindness was something she hadn't seen in a long while. We're just hungry, she said quietly. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be in the way. We've been walking since morning. Buses wouldn't let us on without cash. I was just trying to find somewhere safe. Danny looked down at her kids, who were huddled close, clinging to their mother. What's your name? He asked. Emily, she said. These are my kids, Noah, Lily, and baby Grace. He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He had $15 in his wallet, barely enough for milk and bread that week. But he also had a choice. You and the kids eat chili, he asked. It's not much, but we have some at home. And I got crackers. Her eyes widened. I couldn't possibly. Emily, he said, his voice firm but kind. It's just dinner. Kids shouldn't be hungry. I know how that feels. She hesitated, clearly torn between pride and desperation. But then Noah looked up at her with pleading eyes, and she gave a small nod. That night, the small apartment was louder than usual, filled with voices, little feet tapping on the floors, and laughter Danny hadn't heard in months. Toby was thrilled to have company and shared his toys like they were treasures. Danny watched Emily as she fed Grace, making sure each of her kids had full bowls before she took a bite herself. There was something in her eyes, a story she hadn't told yet. Over the next few days, Danny helped them get settled into a nearby shelter. It was temporary, but it was warm and they could get meals. Emily was grateful, but Danny noticed the way she winced every time someone asked her a question about where she'd come from or why she was alone with 3 kids. She never offered much detail. And something about that, about the way she guarded her past, kept pulling at Danny's thoughts. One evening, after dropping Toby off at a friend's for a school project, Danny stopped by the shelter to check in. He brought a bag of groceries. Nothing fancy, just eggs, bread, a small jar of peanut butter, and a box of cereal. Emily greeted him with a soft smile, her kids giggling behind her. "You really don't have to keep doing this," she said. "I know," he said, handing over the bag. "But I want to." They sat for a while outside, watching the sun dip behind the rooftops. Danny finally asked, "Emily, what happened before I found you? Where were you coming from?" She went quiet. For a long time she didn't say anything. Then she whispered, "We ran." "From what?" he asked gently. Emily looked away, her eyes glassy. "I thought I was marrying someone good." He was good at first. But after the twins were born, something changed. He got cold, controlling. By the time Grace came along, it was like we were prisoners. I wasn't allowed to work, to leave, to talk to anyone. When he started yelling at the kids, I knew I had to get out. So one morning, I packed what I could and left before sunrise. Danny sat there stunned. All this time he'd thought he was the one barely hanging on. But here was this woman, carrying 3 kids, no money, no home, and a past filled with things she didn't dare say out loud, and yet she still managed to smile for her children. He stared at the pavement, unsure of what to say. That's when Emily added something that shook him. "There's something else," she said. "I haven't told you the whole truth." Danny turned to her, confused. "What do you mean?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I didn't just run from him. I think he's looking for us." And just like that, the calm cracked. Danny felt something shift deep in his gut. "Has he found you?" he asked. "I don't know," she replied, eyes scanning the shadows. "But someone was watching us last night outside the shelter. I'm sure of it." Danny's heart pounded. Because sometimes the most dangerous things you run from don't stay behind. And what he would discover next, about Emily, her past, and who was really chasing her, would leave him questioning everything he thought he knew about second chances. Danny didn't say much that night. He walked Emily and the kids back inside the shelter, making sure the door was locked behind them. But long after he'd driven home and tucked Toby into bed, her words stayed with him like a cold draft under the door. "I think he's looking for us." He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the chipped mug of coffee he'd reheated 3 times. His thoughts spun, each one louder than the last. Who was this man Emily had escaped from? Was he dangerous? Was she safe now? Were the kids? And why did Danny care this much about a woman he'd only known for a week? It wasn't just pity, he knew that. It was something else. Maybe it was because he saw a bit of himself in her. Fighting battles in silence, trying to stay strong for the ones who depended on her. Or maybe it was the way she tried to laugh around her pain. How her voice never cracked in front of her kids, even when you could see the fear in her eyes. The next morning, Danny called out of work. Something about Emily's story had shaken him, and he needed answers. He wasn't the type to snoop, but something told him that whatever she had run from wasn't just in her past. It was still coming. Quietly, slowly. At the shelter, Emily looked surprised to see him. "You didn't have to come." "I know," he said, offering a soft smile. "But I wanted to." She hesitated, then stepped outside with him while the kids stayed busy in the common room. The morning was cool, and the sidewalk smelled faintly of old rain. "I couldn't sleep," she admitted. "I keep replaying it. That shadow outside the window. I thought maybe I imagined it, but—" "You didn't," Danny said, cutting her off gently. "I believe you." She exhaled, relieved. "Most people don't." Danny leaned against the railing, eyes on the parking lot. "Can you tell me more about him? Your husband?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "His name's Mark. We met when I was 22. He was charming back then. Said all the right things, made me feel safe. I just lost my mom, and I guess I wanted to believe someone could take care of me." Her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her sweater. "After we got married, he changed. Little things at first. He didn't want me to work. Said I should rest. Then he didn't want me seeing friends. Said they were a bad influence. It got worse after the twins came. He'd disappear for days, then come back and act like nothing happened. Danny listened carefully, watching the pain flicker across her face. When I got pregnant with Grace, I wanted to leave. I told him I needed space, that I wanted to go to my sister's for a while. He got furious. That night, he locked my phone in a drawer and told me I was too emotional to make good decisions. That was the first time I was scared he might really hurt me. Did he ever? Danny's voice trailed off, unsure how to ask. No, not physically. Not yet. But it was getting close. He'd yell near the kids, slam doors. They'd cry and hide behind me. That's when I knew I couldn't wait. I grabbed what I could and left. Danny looked at her, wondering how she'd managed to carry 3 children, a baby, and that kind of fear on her own. Did you go to the police? He asked. She shook her head quickly. I was afraid he'd twist it around. He has money, friends in places. He always said if I ever tried to leave, no one would believe me. Danny rubbed his jaw, processing everything. Have you seen him since you left? No, not until. I think it was him, Danny. Last night. Just standing across the street. He didn't come close, but he didn't need to. I know his posture. The way he stands with one hand in his coat. I swear it was him. Danny felt a chill crawl down his back. If Emily was right, then Mark had found her. And if he was the kind of man she described, there was no way he was going to walk away quietly. I want you and the kids to stay somewhere safe, Danny said. The shelter's okay, but if he really is watching, he might try something. Emily looked at him, tired and scared. Where would we go? I can't keep running. You won't be, Danny said. I've got a friend, Marcus. He works maintenance at this old church near town. There's a basement room they don't use anymore, but it's warm and nobody ever goes there. You could stay a few nights. Just until we figure something out. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. Why are you doing all this? Danny paused. Because someone helped me once, when I didn't think I had a way out. And because your kids deserve to sleep without fear. Later that evening, Danny picked them up and drove in silence toward the old church. It was small, nestled between a row of trees and a long-forgotten gas station. Inside, Marcus greeted them with a soft nod and led them down to the basement room, a simple space with blankets, a lamp, and an old radio on the shelf. Emily looked around, her voice cracking. Thank you. It's not much, Danny said. But it's safe. Over the next 2 days, things seemed calmer. Emily and the kids stayed hidden, and Danny checked in often. He brought food, books for the twins, and even a stuffed bear for baby Grace. But the peace didn't last. On the 3rd night, just past 10 p.m., Danny's phone buzzed. It was a number he didn't recognize. He answered cautiously. Hello. Silence. Then a voice, low and cold. You think hiding them makes you a hero? Danny's stomach dropped. Who is this? You know who. It is mine. And she took my kids. If you don't want trouble, stay out of this. You have no idea what you're stepping into. The line went dead. Danny stood frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear. Every instinct screamed at him to drive straight to the church, but he forced himself to stay calm. If Mark had his number, he might also know where Danny lived. Or where Toby went to school. He grabbed his keys, his heart pounding. This was no longer just about helping someone in need. This was about protecting lives. And Danny had no idea just how deep this was about to go, or how much danger was waiting in the shadows, watching every move he made. Danny drove faster than he should have. The roads were empty, but his mind was a mess. That voice on the phone, cold, flat, almost bored, had shaken something in him. Not just fear but anger. Who was this man to speak like that? Like Emily and her kids were his property. Like kindness was a threat. The streetlights blurred past him as he gripped the wheel tighter. His thoughts kept jumping. Was Mark nearby? Had he followed them? Had he seen the church? When Danny pulled up, the church was quiet. He parked a few blocks away just in case someone had been watching. The night air was heavy, the kind that made even leaves feel loud underfoot. He walked around back, tapping the coded knock he and Marcus had agreed on. A moment later, the side door creaked open. Emily stood there, her face pale, eyes wide. "Is everything okay?" Danny didn't want to worry her, but he couldn't lie either. "We need to be careful. Got a call." "I think it was him." Her hand instinctively reached behind her, as if making sure the kids were still there. "What did he say?" "He knows you're gone. And he knows about me. Which means he's watching someone." She exhaled slowly. "He always said he had people. I never believed him, but maybe." Danny glanced over her shoulder. "Are the kids okay?" "They're asleep. But Lily had a nightmare earlier. Said someone was trying to get in." Danny looked around, but everything was still. Just the sound of wind brushing against the stained glass windows. "I'm going to stay here tonight," he said. "I'll sleep by the door." Emily looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just nodded, her voice soft. "Thank you." Inside the basement room, Danny pulled a folding chair close to the door. It wasn't much of a defense, but it gave him peace of mind. He stayed awake most of the night, listening for every creak and whisper of sound. Around 3 a.m. he heard footsteps. Not from outside but upstairs. Slow, steady ones. He stood up, every muscle tight. Then a door creaked. He moved quietly, stepping into the hallway, heart hammering in his chest. He reached the stairwell and paused, listening. Silence. Then Marcus's voice echoed down. "Danny? That you?" Danny let out a slow breath. "Yeah. You hear something?" Marcus came down halfway. "Just checking locks. Got a weird feeling. Like someone was out front earlier. When I opened the door, no one was there, but the gate was swinging." Danny's gut clenched. "He's close." The next morning, while Emily made toast for the kids on a small portable burner, Danny stepped outside to call someone he hadn't spoken to in years. His older brother, Shane. Shane had been a cop once, but left after some incident Danny never got the full story on. He now ran a private security company out of the next county. When Shane picked up, his voice was still rough from sleep. "Danny. It's early, man. I need your help." That woke him up fast. "You okay?" Danny explained everything. The woman, the kids, the threats, the phone call. Shane didn't interrupt. When Danny finished, there was a long pause. "You in over your head?" Shane finally asked. "Probably. But I'm not backing out." Shane sighed. "All right. Text me the guy's name. You said Mark, right? I'll dig around. See what comes up." Back at the church, Emily sat quietly while the kids played with some crayons Danny had brought the day before. "You okay?" he asked her. "I feel like I'm being pulled in two directions," she said. "One part of me wants to disappear, keep running until he can't find us. The other part, I'm tired of being scared. I want him to stop." Danny sat across from her. "He will. We'll find a way." She looked down. "I just hope he doesn't hurt anyone trying." By afternoon, Shane called back. "You were right to be worried," he said. "This guy, Mark Ryland, he's not just some angry ex. He's got money, businesses under fake names, and ties to a few folks that don't play by the rules. Real estate, private contractors, even a security firm in Arizona that's had complaints about stalking. Nothing criminal sticks to him, but there's a pattern." Danny felt a chill. "So he's dangerous." "Very. And if he's tracking her, he's probably using people. Not doing the work himself. You need to stay ahead of him." That night, Danny sat Emily down and told her everything Shane had found. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just stared at the floor for a long time. "He always said he'd find me," she whispered. "No matter where I went." "You're not alone anymore," Danny said. She looked up, her eyes red but steady. "I know. And I need to tell you something." Danny leaned in. "What is it?" Emily looked toward the corner where Grace was napping, then back at him. "I didn't just run with the kids. I took something from him." Danny blinked. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "It's not money. Not exactly. It's proof of things he did. Things I think he was trying to cover up. I didn't mean to take it. I was just looking for documents I needed. But when I got to his office, I found a USB drive in a drawer. I didn't even look at it until after we'd left town. What was on it? Photos, emails, bank transfers, and names I didn't recognize. But I could tell they weren't good people. There was one file titled Project Harlow, and something about a private meeting offshore. Danny leaned back stunned. Do you still have it? Yes. I've hidden it. Emily, if he knows you have this, he won't stop. I know, she said quietly. But I couldn't just leave it behind. If anything ever happened to me, I needed something that could prove he's not who he pretends to be. That changed everything. This wasn't just about an angry ex trying to find his family. This was about secrets, dangerous ones. And Emily had stumbled right into the middle of them. Danny stood up, pacing the room. We need a plan. We can't just wait for him to make the next move. What do? We find out exactly what's on that drive. We figure out who's helping him. And we get it in the hands of someone who can do something with it. She nodded, her face hardening with resolve. But before they could move, a knock echoed from upstairs. 3 quick taps, then silence. Danny and Emily locked eyes. It was the same knock Emily had described, the one Mark used to use at their old home. He was here. And he wasn't knocking for permission. He was knocking to send a message. And the walls around them were closing in. The knock echoed again. 3 sharp taps, then nothing. Danny motioned for Emily to stay quiet and moved silently to the edge of the stairwell. He listened, heart racing, every instinct telling him to expect the worst. There were no footsteps, no voices, just a silence so thick it made the air feel heavy. He glanced back at Emily. She had gathered the kids, hushing them gently, her back pressed against the wall as if trying to melt into it. The twins clung to her sweater, eyes wide, and baby Grace stirred but didn't cry. Danny held his breath, each second dragging out. A shadow passed by the small, high basement window. It was quick, but he saw it. Someone was definitely out there. He turned to Marcus, who had just entered through the side door with a sandwich in hand, unaware of what he was walking into. Danny raised a hand quickly to signal him to stop. Marcus froze, then nodded, understanding the tension instantly. Danny whispered, "Someone's outside. Don't make a sound." Marcus lowered the sandwich slowly and stepped back, pulling out his phone. But Danny shook his head. "No calls yet. They might have someone watching. We need to know what we're dealing with first." The knock came again, this time louder, slower. "Deliberate," Emily whispered. "That's him. I know that rhythm. It's the same knock he used when he came home late." Danny's jaw tightened. "Then we're not opening that door." But the problem wasn't just the door. The church wasn't built to be a fortress. There were old windows, side entrances, and no alarm system. Danny knew that if Mark was here, truly here, it wouldn't be long before he found a way in. Marcus crept over to a storage closet, came back with a rusty crowbar and a flashlight. "I'll check the back." Danny stopped him. "No, we stay together. He wants us to split up. That's what people like this do. Wait for panic, then move in." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then we block the stairs." They worked quickly, sliding an old bookshelf in front of the door and jamming the chair under the knob. It wasn't much, but it gave them a few more minutes. Emily handed the twins a coloring book and whispered for them to stay close. Danny saw the strain on her face, how hard she was trying to stay calm for them. He'd seen that same look in the mirror back when Toby was little and things had gone bad. It was the look of a parent doing everything they could with nothing left. The knock stopped. Danny's stomach dropped. The silence was worse. Then came the soft crunch of gravel. Footsteps circling the side of the church. He and Marcus moved toward the hallway. Danny peeked through the narrow basement window, careful not to reveal himself. He caught a glimpse of a figure in a dark coat standing near the back exit. Just standing there. Not trying to get in, just watching. Marcus leaned closer. That him? I think so. He's not alone, Marcus said, voice low. There's a van across the street. No plate. Could be a team. Danny's pulse quickened. What would he need a team for? I don't know, Marcus said. But it's not just about scaring her anymore. Danny looked at Emily. We need to move. Tonight. Quietly. Before they surround the place. She nodded, holding Grace tighter. Where? There's a safe house Shane mentioned. It's about 20 minutes out off the main road. No one knows about it. But we can't use your car, they might be watching. Marcus stepped forward. I'll take them. I'll leave through the maintenance tunnel. You cover from the back. If anyone sees you, they'll follow, thinking she's still here. Danny hesitated. It's too dangerous. It's the only way, Marcus said. Emily placed her hand gently on Danny's arm. You've done enough. Please don't put yourself at risk. But Danny shook his head. I'm not leaving you. I'll lead them away, but I'm coming to that safe house right after. They moved quickly. Marcus gathered essentials. Diapers, food, the USB drive Emily had hidden in a box of coloring books. He helped her get the kids ready, packing only what they could carry. Danny crouched near the door, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the window. Then came the sound they all dreaded. The creak of the front door. It wasn't loud, but in the dead silence of the church, it felt like thunder. Danny motioned quickly. Go. Now. Marcus led Emily and the kids through the maintenance tunnel behind the storage closet. Danny watched the basement door, crowbar in hand, every muscle locked tight. Another footstep. Closer this time. The sound of a hand brushing along the old wooden banister. Danny backed toward the hallway, making sure his footsteps were loud enough to be heard upstairs. He grabbed an empty paint can and tossed it across the floor. The crash echoed like an explosion in the quiet. Then he waited. A second shadow passed the window. Then a third. 3 of them. Danny moved to the side exit, heart hammering, and kicked the door open. He ran. He sprinted through the alley behind the church, turning sharply down a side street. A shout followed him. 2 voices, maybe 3, but he didn't look back. He needed to give them something to chase. His feet hit the pavement hard. He ran past old buildings and fences, weaving through narrow alleys, making noise when he could. Then he ducked behind a dumpster and waited, chest heaving. 2 men ran past, one holding a flashlight, the other talking into a walkie. He took the bait, one said. The girl's still inside. Danny smiled grimly. They didn't know. They were chasing a ghost. Back at the church, Marcus slipped out of the tunnel with Emily and the kids. They stayed low, cutting across the abandoned yard and disappearing into the trees. They were gone before the van even turned around. And Danny, crouched in the shadows, watched it all. His breath fogging in the cold night air, knowing this was only the beginning. Because now Mark was out in the open. And once he realized Emily was gone again, he'd stop at nothing. And next time he wouldn't just knock. He'd break the door down. Danny waited in the dark, his heart pounding in rhythm with every second that passed. The men from the van had taken the bait, but they hadn't gone far. He could see their silhouettes moving near the church, one of them barking orders into a phone. They were circling back too fast. Something was off. Either they knew it was a trap, or they'd realized Emily was already gone. Danny knew he didn't have much time. He needed to disappear before they regrouped. He slipped out from behind the dumpster and moved through the alley, staying close to the shadows. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a single message from Shane. You've got a bigger problem. Call me. Now. He ducked into an old stairwell behind a bakery and called. Shane picked up immediately. You still near the church? Yeah. What's going on? Shane's voice was urgent, almost panicked. Listen carefully. I just got word from a friend in the cyber unit. That USB Emily has. It's not just proof of some shady deals. It's connected to a much larger investigation. Federal level. The name, Project Harlow, popped up in an encrypted file dump the agency's been monitoring for months. And get this, Mark isn't just running from the law. He's been feeding information to a group that deals in digital blackmail, underground accounts, offshore trafficking. Real serious stuff. Danny leaned against the wall, trying to process it. So he's not just after Emily because of the kids. No. He's after the drive. She's holding evidence that could destroy not just him, but a network of powerful people. And they just found out someone's been trying to decrypt the files. Danny's chest tightened. You think they're watching her? I think they've been watching you, Shane said. She's with Marcus, right? Yeah. They're on their way to the safe house. There was a pause. Then pray they get there fast. Because if these people know where she is, they won't wait. And they won't knock next time. Danny ended the call and took off down the street. Every shadow now looked like a threat. Every silence felt too loud. He needed to catch up to Marcus and Emily. But as he turned the corner near the edge of town, headlights cut across the road. Too slow, too deliberate. A black SUV eased into view. Danny ducked just in time, diving behind an old newspaper stand. The car crept by, the windows tinted, the engine barely audible. Not the same van from earlier. This was something else. He watched as the vehicle pulled to a stop outside a hardware store, the driver never getting out, just sitting there like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Danny moved fast. He knew the back roads Marcus would have taken to avoid the main highway. If he could cut through the old trail behind Miller's farm, he might just intercept them before anything or anyone did. Meanwhile, in Marcus's car, the kids had finally dozed off in the back seat. Emily stared out the window, holding Grace close. Her mind raced. Every bump in the road felt like it could lead to something worse. "Do you think we're being followed?" she whispered. Marcus shook his head. "I've been checking every turn. We're clear so far. But once we get to the tree line near the safe house, we go dark. No phones, no lights, nothing." Emily nodded. But her hand instinctively reached for her bag. She felt the USB, still buried beneath a pile of baby wipes and coloring books. Her fingers trembled slightly. "I never opened all the files," she said. "Just the surface stuff. But there was a folder labeled, Insurance." I think he meant it literally. Marcus glanced at her. "What's in it?" "I don't know. I was scared to look. But it might be the only thing keeping him from doing worse." Up ahead, the road narrowed, trees closing in on both sides. That's when Marcus saw it. Fresh tire tracks in the dirt. Not his. And they weren't from earlier. They were recent. He slowed the car. "Someone's already been through here." Emily's heart sank. "You think it's him?" Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he reached under his seat and pulled out an old flare gun. "We get to the cabin, we don't stay inside. We head into the woods behind it. If someone's watching the house, they'll expect us to go straight in." Suddenly, Emily's phone vibrated. No number. Just one message. "We see you. Give it back." She showed Marcus, her face pale. "He knows." Danny reached the edge of the tree line moments later. The moonlight barely lit the path, but he saw the trail of tire marks and his heart dropped. They weren't alone. He could hear the distant rumble of an engine shutting off. He moved quickly, staying low, scanning the area. Then he saw it, a dark figure slipping between the trees, heading in the same direction as the safe house. Not rushing, just steady, like he knew where he was going. Danny followed. Back in the car, Marcus parked behind a thicket, away from the gravel driveway. The cabin stood in the distance, quiet, undisturbed. But it was too quiet. No birds, no wind, just an eerie stillness. He looked at Emily. "Time to go." They stepped out quietly. Emily clutched Grace while guiding the twins with her free hand. Marcus kept his eyes on the shadows. The kids were silent, sensing something was wrong. They were halfway to the woods behind the house when a voice broke the silence. "Emily!" She froze. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't angry. It was calm, measured, like he was standing just feet away. Marcus turned sharply. His eyes scanned the trees. But he didn't see anyone. Then another voice closer. You shouldn't have taken it. Emily turned slowly, and through the trees she saw him. Mark. He stepped forward, dressed in black, hands empty, but his eyes, cold and still, spoke volumes. Behind him, another figure emerged. Then a third. Quiet. Trained. Not thugs, professionals. Emily whispered, "Run." Marcus raised the flare gun and fired it straight into the sky. The red light screamed into the night, cutting through the darkness like a signal of war. Danny saw it from the trail. He ran faster, crashing through brush and low branches, lungs burning. But as he neared the clearing, he saw the scene unfold. Emily standing protectively in front of her kids. Marcus between them and the approaching men. And Mark smiling. You can't run from this, Mark said. You never could. Emily stepped forward, pulling the USB from her coat. Then maybe it's time to stop running. The moment froze. Mark's eyes locked on the drive. His men tensed. Danny broke into the clearing, just as everything began to unravel. The fuse was lit, and everything was seconds from exploding. Danny burst through the clearing, panting hard. His eyes locking instantly on Emily and the children behind her. His instincts kicked in. He didn't think, he just moved. Get back, he shouted, raising the crowbar he still had from the church. But the men flanking Mark were already reacting, one reaching into his coat, the other stepping forward with purpose. Mark held up a hand to stop them. Easy, he said, his eyes never leaving Emily. No one needs to get hurt. I just want the drive. Danny glanced at Marcus, who stood between them like a wall. Emily gripped the USB tighter, her voice shaking but steady. You don't get to pretend this is about a file. You left us with nothing. You disappeared. Then you show up with armed men and say no one needs to get hurt. Mark's face twitched. For the first time there was a crack in his calm. You don't understand what's on that drive. It's not about me anymore. You're in over your head. Then explain it, Danny snapped. Right now. Why are you doing this? Why the lies, the threats, the van, the people following us? Mark looked around, noticing how cornered he was. Because that drive links to a hidden database. People way above me use it to control others. Judges, CEOs, politicians. I was supposed to bury it. Destroy the connection. But she, he pointed at Emily, found the backup. And when she ran, they thought I helped her. I didn't. But now they want it all erased. Including her. Emily's breath caught. So you came to finish their job? No, he said quickly. I came to trade. I have a way out for both of us. I was going to bring the drive to a contact who can use it to expose them safely. But I needed to be sure you'd still trust me. Clearly you don't. Danny moved closer, sensing the tension in Mark's voice. If you really wanted to help, why not go to the authorities? Mark let out a dry laugh. I tried. The first agent I called ended up missing 2 days later. These people have eyes everywhere. This, he gestured toward the USB, is a death sentence unless we use it the right way. Suddenly, from the woods behind them, more lights appeared. Flashlights, low voices, movement. Everyone tensed. But then Shane emerged, followed by 2 plainclothes officers from a private federal task force. Nobody move, he shouted. Everyone drop what you're holding. Mark raised his hands, but his men didn't. One tried to run, another reached for something under his coat, but they were tackled before they could act. In seconds, the clearing was swarming with quiet, controlled energy. Danny turned to Shane, stunned. How'd you find us? You think I wasn't tracking that flare the second it hit the sky? Shane grinned. And we've been following Mark's phone since he got too close to the church. Emily finally exhaled, her body trembling as she held Grace close. She stepped forward and handed the USB to Shane. This has everything. Every file he copied. Every password. I didn't even know what I had until recently. Shane nodded, his tone serious. You did the right thing. We'll take it from here. Mark didn't resist as they cuffed him. He looked at Emily one last time, almost pleading. I never meant for it to get this far. But Emily didn't respond. She just turned away, walking back to her children, who stood waiting quietly behind the trees. Marcus exhaled, lowering the flare gun. Danny finally allowed his muscles to relax. The danger had passed. Or so they thought. Just as the officers were leading Mark away, Shane's radio crackled. We've got a problem, a voice said. The drive she gave you, it's real, but it's not the only one. Everyone froze. Danny stepped forward. What do you mean? The voice continued. We intercepted a signal minutes ago. Someone uploaded a copy. It's already moving across private servers. Someone else has access. Emily's face went pale. That can't be. I only made one backup. Mark, still cuffed, gave a bitter smile. Then someone in your house did. Danny turned, scanning the clearing, and suddenly his mind clicked. Marcus. He wasn't where he had been a moment ago. He'd stepped back, phone in hand, his face tense. Danny's voice was cold. Marcus, what did you do? Marcus froze. I didn't copy anything. I swear. But Danny wasn't convinced. Shane gave a signal, and one of the agents checked Marcus's phone. Then a grim nod. There's an upload trace, the agent said. To an unknown cloud storage. Encrypted. Hidden behind 5 proxy servers. Marcus didn't run. He just looked broken. I thought we needed a backup. I didn't know it would go public. Mark shook his head. Now they'll come harder. Not just for Emily. For everyone. Danny felt the weight settle again. What they thought was over had just opened a bigger door. Shane looked at Danny, his expression grim. We stopped the storm for now. But this is just the eye. As dawn crept over the trees, Danny walked Emily and the kids to the SUV. They were safe for the moment. But the world behind them, the secrets they'd unearthed, was already starting to shift again. And somewhere out there someone was watching. Waiting for the next move. The early morning haze cast long shadows through the trees as the sun began to rise. Emily sat on the back bumper of the SUV, wrapped in a borrowed blanket. Grace nestled quietly against her chest. Her boys, worn out from the long night, were sleeping across the back seat, their little faces finally at peace. For the first time in weeks there was silence, not the kind that was heavy with fear, but the kind that felt like a breath after holding it too long. Danny stood a few steps away, talking quietly with Shane. The agents had taken Mark and his men into custody, and a secured team had been dispatched to recover the uploaded files. It wouldn't be easy, and the risk wasn't over, but the people who needed to know now had what they needed to act. The cover-up was cracked wide open. Emily looked at Danny. So, what happens now? Danny turned to her, rubbing the back of his neck. They'll keep you and the kids protected for a while. New IDs if you want them. Shane's pulling strings to get you into a witness relocation program. But only if you say yes. Emily looked down at Grace, brushing a bit of hair from her daughter's face. I don't want to keep running. You might not have to, Danny said. But if the files are truly out there now, there's always a chance someone new will come looking. You've seen too much. She nodded slowly. And what about you? What do you do after all this? Danny smiled faintly. I still have a roof job scheduled for Monday. Gotta fix Mrs. Nolan's garage before it collapses completely. That made Emily laugh for the first time in days. It wasn't loud or long, but it was real. You're something else, Danny. He shrugged. Just a single dad with a hammer, trying not to mess things up too bad. Shane approached then, holding a small black pouch. Here, he said to Emily. The original USB. We've copied it and secured the backup. This one's dead now, wiped. But maybe keeping it will remind you how strong you were. She took it with both hands, staring at the tiny device that had caused so much chaos, so much pain. And yet, in a strange way, it had brought clarity too. The people she thought she knew, the man she once loved, the secrets buried beneath their everyday life. None of it had been what it seemed. But through all of it, one thing had remained true. She never stopped fighting for her kids. Danny watched her closely. "You should rest. We'll be here till the afternoon, then head out. There's a temporary place for you in a town just west of here. Quiet. Safe." Emily looked at the forest edge, where the last of the agents were packing up. "What about Marcus?" Danny sighed. "He didn't mean harm. Thought he was helping. He's not going to jail, but he'll be watched closely. Shane said they'll probably use him to trace how far those files spread." She nodded. "He risked everything for us." "Yeah," Danny said. "A lot of people did." The sun crept higher, burning off the last of the fog. The kids began to stir. Emily turned to them, gently waking the boys. She whispered promises. Pancakes, cartoons, no more running. It was fragile, this peace, but it was real. Danny turned away, giving them a moment. His mind wandered to his own son. Tommy would be waking up soon, asking where his dad had gone. He had promised him waffles. And even after all this, that promise mattered. He felt a hand on his arm. Emily had walked up beside him, the kids now stretching and yawning inside the SUV. "Hey," she said. "I don't know what we would have done without you." Danny looked at her, his voice low. "You saved yourself, Emily. I just showed up late." "No," she said softly. "You showed up when it counted." He gave a small nod. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the golden light spill over the trees. Eventually they packed up. The agents cleared the area, and the SUV began the drive toward their new temporary home. Danny followed in Shane's car, watching the road, but also watching Emily. How she held her kids' hands, how she looked out the window with something close to hope in her eyes. Later that afternoon, they reached a quiet stretch of farmland just outside a sleepy town. A small cottage waited at the end of a gravel drive. Not much, but peaceful. A garden out front, a swing hanging from a tree, the kind of place that whispered safety. Emily stepped out, her boys running ahead to explore. Grace slept in her arms. Danny got out and walked up beside her. "What do you think?" She smiled. "It's perfect." They carried boxes inside, set up the kids' beds, and helped Emily get settled. There wasn't much to unpack. Just a few bags, some books, and a well-worn stuffed rabbit. But it felt like the start of something new. As the sun began to dip again, painting the sky in warm oranges and pinks, Danny said his goodbye. "Call me if you need anything," he said. "Anything." She hugged him. It wasn't long, but it was warm, grateful. "Thank you, Danny. For everything." He nodded, then turned toward the car. As he drove away, Emily watched from the porch. Her boys laughed in the yard, chasing each other under the setting sun. Grace stirred in her arms but didn't cry. Emily looked down at the USB again before placing it in a drawer and closing it. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be questions, fears. But there was also something else now, quiet strength. She had faced darkness and protected what mattered most. And somewhere in a nearby town, a single dad was making waffles for his son, tired but alive, finally home after a storm that had changed them all. Because sometimes the people who show up when everything falls apart are the ones who remind us how to begin again.